I mean, we can up the volume, but
Okay. Well, I started the stream.
okay,
So-
we got this. Maybe we should, I think we'll need it a little higher. I do believe that we're a little low because this gets this. So let's put it on this guy.
Okay, yeah, we should be good now.
We need just a
Testing,
volume,
testing.
right?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, there we have it. Put it right there.
Okay.
All right.
Ready?
I think I'm ready. Wait,
Okay.
well, the volume seems to be incredibly low.
It is a little low. Yeah, our
Something is low. We have to really crank it up that high. Yes, we do.
we got a copy of the paper here too.
Oh,
if
okay.
you wanna.
Copy
Sure.
of the paper. Oh, that's the wrong paper.
This is last
We need
week's.
whoop, whoop, yeah. Well, it's a little better. Hold on. I mean, I'll talk about Worcester
Mhm.
with respect to that massacre. Do you want to back?
Oh, okay. That's
Let's wrap this up here. So it's all out of the way. Okay.
okay.
This one is this stand. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Ready to kick it off?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, I'm not ready. Let me take my phone off and turn it off.
Mhm.
To we're not. Disrupted by the electronic devices. I didn't check the news feed this morning. Did you for Haiti?
No.
Nothing big happened.
Well, there was the speech at the UN of Laurent
Laurent
Sassier,
Sassier?
but I didn't get a chance to watch it in full.
Yeah, I didn't. Let me just check with Bethany before we do it. before we do this, let me just watch his speech, or we can watch it together just briefly so we don't
Okay.
miss anything. He said there was nothing major in it, but oh, okay, I'll read this goddamn thing because it's. I'm gonna put my glasses to tell me I left them. I'm gonna just read the summary. Might be easier than listening to the blah blah blah. Murders, gang rapes, famine. This war between criminals who want to impose violence. It's the social order and unarmed population struggling to preserve human dignity. Okay. Armed gang control next to the capital, 15 months. Security Council. Bravery was not enough to contain the crisis. Threats to peace. Threats to peace, not international peace and security. Wants peace, Haiti is waiting for peace. Haiti has the right to peace. Those people to choose their leaders. The voices raised in reparations. The spirit of revenge, but concern for justice and truth.
Entendre l'allocution de son
Listen, we will now hear the statement of General Disting, which is now an absolute imperative for the Haitian people. On behalf of this group, recalls the importance of remaining unified and resilient in the rise of terrorism, mass atrocities, transnational crime, the erosion of human rights, and disinformation. We cannot turn a blind eye to the urgent need to strengthen our healthcare system. Despite the many challenges caused by the security crisis, the electoral process, for which the PTC and the government have shown real political will, has made real headway. The Electoral Council, the Provisional Electoral Council, has already identified more than 85% of the voting centers, mobilized more than 70% of the elections personnel, and national financing to the tune of $65 million is guaranteed. The Presidential Transition Council is working closely with the MMS, the OAS, CARICOM, and BNU to ensure free, transparent, and inclusive elections reflecting the sovereign will of the Haitian people, which would be fatal for democracy and stability. The Haitian people must be able to choose its own leaders. The state wants credible elections. Our greatest challenge remains restoring security. The urgent and solid call that we have once again issued to resolve the security crisis in Haiti must not be left to languish on paper nor be blossom in rhetoric and unkept promises. In Haiti, peace can no longer wait, ladies and gentlemen. Conditional period allow us to launch all of the international reforms the country needs. The humanitarian crisis we're currently experiencing must be overcome. To this day, the Haitian state provides 50% of emergency assistance for IDPs and assisting families to relocate. We are proudly grateful to our international partners that assisted us in the humanitarian response. We are keenly interested in the promising initiatives put forward by those which, like the Association of Caribbean States, have chosen to join our effort. But our strategy is not limited to immediate assistance. We must move from assistance to investment.
He talked about
The
CARICOM.
government is determined to develop two
Can I?
No, did he? Was
No,
he just?
no, he was just saying
CARICOM?
CARICOM was going to help
Oh.
with, with
major economic hubs, the Great North and the Great South, based on strategic sectors such as agro-industry, textiles, renewable energy, tourism, and services, which will allow us to create jobs.
just make sure that you mentioned it, that Rody didn't say something because I was kind of not on my phone.
To put an end to humanitarian impasse and to reduce migration pressure on nations in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, 2025 marks the bicentennial of the order forcing Haiti to pay a ransom for recognizing its independence.
Okay, and then he does the thing with with France again. Okay, so it's the sleep. Got a taste of it.
Okay, ready?
Countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sure.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome back to This Week in Haiti from Haiti Liberté. I'm Joseph, joined by Kim Ives. As 2 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, we did our first live stream. Today is Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Kim, I want to kick it off with a fact. I don't know if you knew that today is the 60th anniversary of the formation of the Committees for the Defense of the Revolution.
I did not know that.
I
That's
think they're celebrating
a
that today
fascinating
in Cuba.
fact and good to know. Yeah.
So can celebrate that anniversary as we're discussing updates on the crisis in Haiti and the imperialist scheming against Haiti, particularly at the UN this week, which is the other big milestone of the time right now. So I think that's where we should start, considering that we're here in New York and it's UN week up in Manhattan. The traffic is very bad because they block off all the roads and everything to allow the
that's
diplomats
security.
to come up. And there have been quite a few speeches by the different dignitaries going on. There's the pending resolution proposed by the U.S. for the, as we talked about in our last stream, the Task Force for the Suppression of Gangs, the GSF. So there is also a speech presentation by Henry Wooster. And I think in this one we will do a bit of a biographic deep dive into Henry Wooster. And I know you did that with Tembo Verite as well, but I think it might be worth kind of covering some of those details as well in English for our observers. So maybe let's paint the picture for those tuning in with the UN meeting this week, with the U.S. Charge d'Affaires making this presentation talking about, the need to fight terrorists in Haiti. He used that word in particular. He also called for, I believe the term was force multiplication or force acquisition, which
Force generation.
Force generation. Yeah, I hadn't really heard that one before, but it for putting it in more conventional terms, basically is just rounding up mercenaries, pretty much, whichever countries are want to be put their soldiers in harm's risk for a fruitless mission to serve U.S. empire. they're generating the forces to go and do the U.S. bidding. So yeah, which of these details kind of stands out the most to you? What should those tuning in know at this critical hour with the UN meeting? Is the most imperative situation right now?
Well, I think that people have to realize that this is really the moment of truth. The speech that you refer to, Joseph, is really setting the stage for what will happen probably tomorrow on Monday. They'll make their real push in the Security Council to get this resolution passed. Now, it is Henry T. Wooster, the ambassador of the United States to Haiti, defined the gangs as three different categories of people. He said, one, we have terrorists. Why are they terrorists? Because the U.S. called them terrorists. The same way and the meaninglessness of terrorist label is become so obvious, especially under Trump. I mean, it was obvious also in the Biden and sort of deep state administrations. Not that Trump doesn't also have deep state with him, but the same way we saw al-Jilani, now al-Shara, the president of Syria, who was welcomed at the UN by the US, and David Petraeus, who had been the great general who did this so-called surge. And I mean, in the stupidity of just these words they put to things, we're going to do a new strategy, which will be the surge, and they give it a name, and big deal. Okay, you're throwing more troops at the problem. Why all the hype around this term, the surge? Anyway, that was David Petraeus's claim to fame, even though he later became completely infamous for his dereliction and his passing to his mistress these state secrets, which got him fired. But anyway, he gave a very warm thing to this al-Jilani, now al-Shara, and even asking him if he was getting enough sleep and so forth. And this was the terrorist only 8 months ago. He was a terrorist up until, I believe, February of this year, of 2025. So the meaninglessness of terrorist, and this guy was a terrorist, we could say, because he did just horrific crimes against the Syrian people in his jihad on behalf of the empire, and now is kissing up to this genocidal Zionist entity. So anyway, back to Henry Wooster. So he said one category is terrorists. He doesn't specify how or whom they are terrorizing. You are to presume it's the Haitian people, but they are the Haitian people, and they have Haitian people with them. Two, you have insurgents, and I thought that was interesting that he used the term insurgents, because that's really what this is. It's an insurgency. This is the masses of the Haitian shanty towns, of Cité Soleil, of Bel Air, of all the very poor neighborhoods, Carrefour of Port-au-Prince, which for years have been sinking deeper and deeper into the mud and sewage of poverty, have finally stood up and said, we're not going to take it anymore, and here are the arms to prove it. So they are an insurgency, and they have a political program. As Henry T. Wooster said, usually an insurgency has a political program. And that's the essence of this moment. This party that the insurgents have formed, the Vivre Ensemble, the Live Together Party, is really the brainchild, not just of Jimmy Cherizier, but it was really three people, as he's explained, that formed the G9, which was Jimmy Cherizier, Iscar, who unfortunately shot himself and died last year, and a fellow called Chrysler in Carrefour, in the southern flank of Port-au-Prince. So the three of them conceived of this sort of political project, and now it is really coming to fruition. But the just to finish, the insurgency is the essence of it. But the third category that Henry Wooster put in there was criminality. You know, it wasn't very coherent the way he put it. He said it's violent criminality, not criminals, criminality. So it was a fairly vague picture he painted, but his opening line was, "We need stability in Haiti. The U.S. needs stability." And this is the essence you're going to hear in all the U.S. discourse in the next coming years, stability. And as we've talked about here, they have the Global Fragility Act, which is a Global Fragility Act, which is all aimed at stability. It is a question of establishing order in the neo-colonies, which are becoming either restive and rebellious and unwilling to submit, or they are sometimes through the state accepting deals being offered by China and Russia to improve their infrastructure or to make a certain trade deal, etc. So the U.S. is very threatened by this, and therefore the Global Fragility Act foresaw, as we said in the previous show, sending food aid to get them more or less dependent on U.S. food. You have them by the stomach, you have them in hand, and also troops, U.S. troops. Now, this this gang suppression force, GSF, that they are trying to ram through is, it should be something which should be stillborn. But unfortunately, it is getting traction because they have used the countries of the OAS, the 32 nations of the OAS, what Cuba calls Washington's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to all sign off on this, as well as CARICOM also signing off on it. And as a result, it is possible they can do what they're aiming to do, which is to get the UN, the peacekeeping operations budget, to subsidize the logistics of the war that they're going to wage in Haiti. And people should understand that 90% of any war is logistics. It's moving your troops, moving your equipment, moving your guns, your cannons, your mortars, your forces around. That is the key to warfare and conventional warfare. And so that's been their big problem, is they didn't have the money to move around the Kenyans, to get them the trucks, the vehicles, the armored cars, etc., that they needed. They've sent a lot. They've sent a lot of armored cars, a lot of Jeeps, but these things end up basically rusting on the side of the road after a couple of months because there's no way to repair them when they break. There's all kinds of corruption, and in short, the logistics has been some kind of Achilles heel of the Multinational Security Support Mission, MSS, that they sent beginning in June of 2024. That's when the first troops arrived. And basically this year, on October 2nd, they will end. It's over. So they really have come down to the wire now. Tomorrow will be the 29th of September, the beginning. That's when the coup d'etat of 1991 began. It was on the 29th. It culminated on the 30th. But the 29th will again be as they say in Creole, a date fatidique, a fateful date, because the UN Security Council will surely, I think tomorrow, be sitting and deciding on this. Now, will Russia and China veto it? They would like to, I'm sure. You know, they're against it. They certainly won't vote for it. They understand perfectly well what is going on. But in the UN and in diplomacy, you have certain trade-offs that you do. If they do veto it, it opens a lot of can of worms. They'll be accused of not caring about the Haitian people. They'll say, oh, look, all these nations of Latin America were for it. And you coming from the Eastern Hemisphere over here to block it, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't matter that the UN has blocked how many, I think it's 6 now, resolutions for a ceasefire in Gaza. And none of that irony would echo. So both China, who is very prudent and cautious, and I don't think has ever vetoed any resolution, and Russia are going to be in a difficult position to put their foot down, even though they may make a speech against it and try to stop it. Now, it's possible if they could pull a speaker out of their hat who could denounce the intervention and say exactly what this will be, which is a war on the Haitian people. We will see essentially Haiti turned into Gaza with this GSF. You have only to see the cover of this week's newspaper, which, the other one, which has as the headline, Imperialism Kills, and you see the bodies of 4-5 children there with a mother. This was among the some 15 people who were killed in a very murderous drone attack on the 20th of September, which was the birthday of a leader of an area called Simon-Pelé, which is right sort of between the international airport in Haiti and the old airport, which is now just sort of a big road. And Simon-Pelé was celebrating their leader, the local leader, a member of the Vivre Ensemble, a guy called Stevenson Albert, known as Juma, his birthday. And around 7 p.m., they came in with the first drone, and it blew apart, apparently, little kids who had nothing more than, balloons and dolls, and gifts were being given, etc. This was also, by the way, Jean-Jacques Dessalines' birthday, the founding father of Haiti, so it has certain patriotic implications, the festivities. But in came the drones, and they killed at least 8 kids, and we have the names of 11 people who died, kids and adults, and we're told a total of about 15 people died. We are also have reports that, and it's in the article in the paper, which you can find online in English and French, that the cops stopped a number of people who were being transported to the hospital, and they died from their wounds. And we were also told by or I should say, a journalist named Ralph Laurent, who we spoke to, had a woman from Simon-Pelé tell him that the cops even executed some of the people who were taking people to the hospital. So this was just a terrible massacre, and this is what's in store for the Haitian people if this force arrives, because their whole mission, their whole mandate is not just to, as the current mission MSS has, its goal is to support the police in fighting the gangs. But this mission is going to, in fact, not be tethered to the police. It can do whatever it wants. It can go wage war. It can go and flatten a neighborhood. It can go and bring drones and tanks and troops and bombs and everything. And we've seen this over and over again over the past 2 decades in Haiti, since the first kidnapping of Jean-Bertrand Aristide or I should say the second, because the first was almost a kidnapping in 1991. But in 2004, he was in fact kidnapped by a U.S. Navy SEAL team, flown to the Central African Republic, and the slums of Port-au-Prince exploded with so-called gangs. They called them gangs then too, who were doing war with the UN mission that had been deployed in June of that year, the MINUSTAH. And hundreds of poor neighborhood residents were killed in this fighting that was carried out in these neighborhoods which were resisting. In Haiti Liberté, we were given the secret cables that WikiLeaks procured in Cablegate, 250,000 cables, and they gave to Haiti Liberté the 2,000 that pertained to Haiti. And we did a number of articles, but 1 or 2 of those articles explain, and people can find that on the website, about how the bourgeoisie was pushing the UN to go bomb, to go machine gun, to go kill in those neighborhoods. And the U.S. ambassador is saying to one of the bourgeois, yeah, but, you know, it's pretty closely packed and the houses are flimsy, a lot of collateral damage. He goes, well, you know, that's the way it is. And as one of the bourgeois said, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. You know, he's actually in jail right now, a guy called Reginald Boulos in Florida. Something of a sacrificial lamb, but that's another story. The point is that Worcester is basically the front man for this effort that will begin tomorrow, most likely. They'll call for a vote, and I hope that China or Russia will call somebody. They may not have the ability and time. They're both, of course, involved with the General Assembly going on, and the U.S. has been building for this. And the other key line in Worcester's talk on September 22nd was, he said, in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti is the biggest crisis we have. It's not Venezuela, which we see them attacking daily, accusing of drug trafficking and boats blowing them out of the water. It's not Mexico, where they say there are all these gangs who are, you know, sending fentanyl, which is false, and other drugs up into the U.S. and are threatening the U.S. So it's not Mexico, it's not Venezuela, it's not any of the other issues they hold up. It's Haiti. That is their big crisis. And they need to keep Haiti from becoming another Cuba, of becoming another state which is not under U.S. control. That is, to break free of its neo-colonial status, which it's been in really since 1915, when the first U.S. Marines landed in Haiti and took control of the country.
Well, I was thinking of the words of the Russian ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenya. He, I think at the last UN assembly where you spoke, he was commenting on your speech, or the previous article in the paper that talked about the MSS proposal that you spoke against, and Russia's response to it was very important and very worth reading for anybody just listening, it's also worth checking out the full length of what they said. But I think a great part of it was specifically saying that intervention is the root of Haiti's problems. It's not going to be the
Exactly.
solution to Haiti's problems. I would like to talk a little bit more about Russia's position on this in particular. I thought Ambassador Nebenya summed that up really well, and kind of how do they see that in the context of U.S. encroachment against Russia as well. Those words were very impactful. So I'd be curious to hear more about him.
Well,
and his,
he spoke very well, and yes, he was pleased with the address that I gave on December 21st, 2022, and you can find that on the Haiti Liberté site as well. But the Russians understand very well how the U.S. uses the UN as its handmaiden to carry out its neo-colony, shall we say, minding or tending to its neo-colonies. Because it used to be that the U.S. had tin horn dictators that it would put in place throughout Latin America. Think Anastasio Somoza or Augusto Pinochet or Batista. They had a lot of very ruthless dictators who were effective in muzzling and keeping the country in line. But they also produced a lot of Che Guevaras, a lot of insurgencies, and the U.S. began to change the paradigm really in the 1970s and say, instead of using these dictators who, one, give us a black eye, two, they're corrupt and they funnel off millions of dollars into Swiss bank accounts, and three, they are increasing the revolutionary disposition of the people in the region. So they said, now we're going to use the International Peacekeeping Force, which is what they're talking about today. So this is a way to somehow make it look like they're preserving international peace and security. And that's one other thing I want to address that Worcester twists. He said, we're trying to keep peace. The purpose of the UN is to keep peace. No, it's not to keep peace internally. And it says it in the very beginning of the UN Charter. It said nothing in this charter will be used to allow meddling or countries to interfere in the internal affairs of nations. This is a completely internal affair in Haiti. It has nothing to do with any other country. They are not attacking anybody in any way. But the way they're trying to twist it, and the actual words on the UN Charter are to preserve international peace and security. That is fighting between two nations, not within a nation. Now, the Dominicans, who are acting as the bousin or the prostitute of the US in this case, are saying, oh, well, we're invaded by refugees coming from Haiti because they're looking for work or they're fleeing violence or blah, blah, blah. That is not an invasion. That is not international peace and security. You cannot use this as a justification for sending in this murderous force. And they're saying it's going to be a murderous force. They're telling us, they're telegraphing beforehand how murderous this force is going to be. And those pictures, which you can see on the site of Haiti Liberté, are very graphic. These little kids who were just blown to pieces, and mothers and fathers, young men, who were just blown to pieces by these drones. And this is exactly what they're going to do, especially troops assembled under U.S. command. And that's one of the questions that came to Worcester in the press conference. He said, who's going to be in charge of these troops? And he sidestepped it. He said they use this euphemisms. He called it's the Standing Committee of Partners, I think it's called. The standing partners, like using these words, standing partners, means anything. It's going to be the U.S. running it with a couple of lackeys, maybe Panama, maybe even Brazil will do it again. Lula may be stupid enough to do that again. They'll find a few other countries. I know they've been putting the full court press on Petro in Colombia. Hopefully he will not be taken in. But they'll use all these other troops who have no knowledge whatsoever about Haiti, its culture, its traditions, and even its problems, to carry out these terrible attacks. The same way they put the pressure on the Brazilians in the MINUSTA period to attack the shanty towns. This pressure came from Washington. There was a Brazilian general, I wrote about it for The Guardian in England, about his assassination. We believe, they say he committed suicide. He was sitting in his room, he was dressed in his underwear, he was reading a book, and apparently all of a sudden an urge came upon him to take his life and to shoot himself in the head. Dominican intelligence, then President Leonel Fernandez, told the U.S. Embassy, and that's again in the WikiLeaks documents, that he was not suicidal, and he did not commit suicide. He was shot from on his balcony by a sniper. So this is the kind of pressure the U.S. And we should also say, yes, a lot of these countries are lackeys and they'll go along and they don't know any better. But I think the Trump administration is also using strong arm tactics, tariffs. If you don't do this, you're getting a 70% tariff on your stuff. So they're using tariffs, they're using strong arm pressure, they're using all kinds of intimidation, blackmail even, to pressure countries to send their troops to go kill people and be killed in Haiti.
That's very interesting about the Brazilian general. I hadn't.
Yeah, his name was de Cuellar, Cuellar. I forget his first name. And he was a very religious man, extremely religious. He'd just come back from vacation. The odds that this guy committed suicide are absolutely nil. And, but they had to cover it up.
And in terms of the ongoing UN vote, so you're saying like the timeline is tomorrow for a potential vote. Just as a refresher for those watching, and also for myself, because sometimes I forget some of these details of, for example, the current makeup of the Security Council, which country is the chair of the Security Council, because I believe there's a rotating,
right, it rotates
chair.
each month,
Right.
So tomorrow's the 29th. Panama was the chair when they introduced this resolution, this absolutely ridiculous resolution, which if people go to the September 3rd article in Haiti Liberté in English, I think we put the URLs in the French as well, but you can see the actual document, the actual draft resolution that the U.S. presented, which Russia and China refused to even look at, in the beginning, because it was so preposterous. Because essentially, again, it says we're going to make our own force and the UN is going to pay for it, instead of the usual way, which is the Security Council says, okay, there's a problem here. We need to send in a peacekeeping operation. And then we have our peacekeeping operation budget. So the U.S., they like having it under their own aegis. That is, they're the ones who are going to be the head of the standing partners, whatever other clowns they line up around them. But they need the money They want the money of the UN. They want the world to pay for it. So this is just typical Trumpian, Rubian grifting. And I hope that Russia and China and others stand up. Now, I looked at the Security Council composition. Now I can't remember it exactly, but I didn't see any countries in there who were going to be too rebellious. It looked pretty anodyne, pretty much a bunch of pushovers. So the U.S., through its bribery and bullying, may well be able to get a majority of the countries to vote for this, and Russia and China will either abstain or hopefully veto.
Yeah, I was, and I'm sure people listening have seen some of the speeches of the different leaders, such as from Burkina Faso, from Mali, from Niger in particular. There was a speech from the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, talked about, accused Israel of apartheid. But so a lot of the speeches, Petro from Colombia as well.
Yeah, he had a very strong speech.
Yeah, they're very much rhetorically quite forceful. But at the same time, obviously also then you have the ones from William Ruto from Kenya, Laurent Sincere from Haiti as well, talking specifically about circumstances we're talking about, the intervention, and they're really just kind of all using the subject of, what is the UN's role in the world today, and they're all kind of, whereas the countries that have, that are anti-imperialist are using that floor to actually call out the or indict the imperialist nations to whatever limited extent you can use the UN. I mean, it's in New York City, so but the ones from U.S. aligned neocolonial states and comprador states are very much using the rhetoric even of solidarity. Ruto is using the word solidarity.
Yeah, we're doing it with
over and over
Pan-African
again.
solidarity.
Yeah.
That is his, that's his selling point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, to what extent does that really matter? Does the rhetoric? I know this is the annual global meeting for all these countries to come together, but to what extent can the this is maybe a bit of a side question to a lot of these things, and the speech by, let me see if I can remember. Well, even in Ruto's speech, while he was commenting about how great it is that we've gone into Haiti from Kenya and all this stuff, in the same speech, on the same token, he was saying we still want to reform the UN Security Council and make it more democratic. And I think that's a common sentiment for many countries, whether they're doing the US bidding or not. And to some extent, a lot of the leadership of the global South, I mean, they are sort of wrapped up under the US run global order, whether they would like to be or not. So I'm curious how much Haiti, unfortunately, being represented by Laurent Sincere, who we've talked about in the past. I think in the last episode we talked about how he's literally the spokesperson for the business class.
Right, he's the representative on
this. So people may not realize that while watching his speech. Like in the other circumstances, you have political leaders, and in the Sahel states, for example, it's leaders coming from these militant, mostly proletarian coup d'etats, or really revolutions led by soldiers, and the soldier class, which is mostly working and proletarian. they're going up to the UN and speaking and denouncing France and denouncing meddling in their countries and basically saying saying this body has really lost a lot of its legitimacy for us because we can't just hear all this fanciful rhetoric all the time. But then on the other hand, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you might watch the speech by Laurent Sincere and think, well, he's just another president like any of these people. He was like for the casual observer, outside observer, he must have been elected popularly like any of these other people who are coming up to speak here. And then you think, well, it's actually, as we talked about, we discussed in the past week, even more nakedly corrupt than many other circumstances. I mean, Donald Trump is the president of America, but at the same time, yeah, Laurent Sincere is quite literally the spokesperson for the bourgeoisie in the illegitimate council that's been set up by Anthony Blinken and America, making this kind of schema up in Jamaica when they, all this. So when we just were looking at his speech just now, all I could think was this is like extremely illegitimate to give this person the floor, and then on the other hand, exclude from the possibility of at least reforming the UN to some extent, which is a proposal pushed at the very least by, the leadership from many African states, from much of the global south. But because you have this illegitimate leader of the bourgeoisie, he's not going to get up there and say Haiti also believes that we should have a restructured UN Security Council, that Israel's committing apartheid, all stuff. All he said was, we thank our global partners for our global patrons, more like it, for helping us with our scheming. So, yeah, what was your reaction? Just the cursory glance at
well,
that speech?
just to clarify for listeners who don't know, what is called the Transitional Presidential Council, TPC in English or CPT in French, is 9 members. 2 of them are just ornamental observers representing civil society and I think religious society. 6 of them are political formations, either large parties like the Lavalas family, or the other large one is the coalition around Montana Group, which is sort of the enlightened bourgeoisie, shall we say, a very close ally of Lavalas family. And then the other 4 are coalitions of various sorts. And then there's only one sector of Haitian society that gets its own representative, and that's the bourgeoisie, the business class, the business sector. Mm-hmm. So that's Laurent Sincere, who is speaking for them. And his speech was exactly, I could say, almost a reproduction of what Worcester said, is we're fighting criminality and these people are raping and committing mayhem. And in fact, it's the opposite. It's his forces. Mm-hmm. It is the so-called, and we saw this in Colombia too. You had the FARC, which was a Marxist-led insurgency, which came out of the jungles of Colombia. And what the bourgeoisie did, along with the government, was make these paramilitary groups to fight back with them. And so a lot of the fighting with the FARC wasn't done by the army itself or the police itself. It was done by these paramilitary groups. And that's exactly what they've done in Haiti. They've made what's called the brigadier. And these people are murderous. If you come from the wrong neighborhood, or you have some tattoos, or you have dreads or something, they'll kill you. They'll not just kill you, they'll dismember you, chop off your head, burn your body. It's terrible. That is the terrorism that's going on in Haiti. People are locked down in their neighborhoods. And they had a huge, giant demonstration. You can read about it in the Haiti Liberté in July. in the area of Carrefour, the southern end of Port-au-Prince, tens of thousands of people turned out to this, and they said, listen, we're doing okay here. Everything's nice in our neighborhood because that's under Crisla. They keep the peace and everything's working and functioning, but we can't go anywhere because of these terrible these terrible brigadier who will kill you. And this is the irony. This is who Laurent Saint-Cyr represents, the real forces of terror. And the UN itself did a report that came out on August 1st, which said in April, May, and June, 76% of the innocent civilians killed in Haiti were killed by the police, the army, the brigadier, or the drones, which are flown by a mercenary group run by Eric Prince, who is hired by the government. So 3/4 of the people killed, and these people are not the so-called gang or armed neighborhood groups, as we call them, leaders. This is just poor people, merchants, people going about their business, people on a bus, people walking to get some water. That's who's being killed by these government forces. So he's trying to present, just like Worcester did, that we need these troops, we need these support, we need these groups to fight criminality and to fight lawlessness. Well, the lawlessness is right there. And he's lawless. Nobody put him in power. Anthony Blinken, a foreign secretary of state, was the one who basically put him in power. So this is just a comedy if it weren't so serious. And, I'll never forget on the 50th anniversary of the UN, 1995, Fidel Castro came to the UN. And I was covering the UN. I was there for Haiti Progrès at the time with my press badge and going around. And I kept looking at the monitors. And I noticed that, they'd be showing this leader and that leader, but they kept cutting to Fidel. They kept cutting to Fidel many, many times. And I said, that's indicative of something. Somebody there sees this guy as a real leader. And I'll never forget his opening line. Was a great speech, very short. And he said, this organization, this is in his address to the General Assembly on the 50th anniversary. 50 years ago, this organization was founded because there was a war which killed 10 million people. Last year alone, 20 million people died from hunger and curable diseases. What progress have we made? And, that laid it out right there. It was, it was silence in the room, just complete. People were just hit by a 2x4 across the head with that. And he went on to explain it. And so, yes, the UN has been a tool of the US, really, through its control of the Security Council for this past 90 years. And now it's changing. As the New York Times, which I was reading this morning, all they can do is talk about how China is the one who's now seems to be the one leading. Trump is pulling back. Trump is not stepping up, and it's China who's stepping up. And so there's great alarm in the U.S. ruling circles that they are losing control of their own institutions, like the United Nations. So again, tomorrow this is going to be a real test. Tomorrow, or it may be on Tuesday, that this will come up before the Security Council, and the U.S. is going to push hard. Now, I should have looked to see who is the president. It's not that the president has that much, the president of the Security Council. It's not like they have that much power, but there is some power because they can recognize so and so to speak, and etc. They are the chair of the meeting. And there has been a movement at the UN for decades now to democratize it. You know, people say, why isn't India on this? Why doesn't it have a permanent seat? Why doesn't Brazil have a permanent seat? Why doesn't Germany have a permanent seat, or Japan? So there are many countries who have proposed themselves or been proposed to be part of the permanent seats, which now, to remind listeners, are just the US, France, England, China, Russia. And I think that what we're seeing really is a shift in this walkout of on Netanyahu was really
Certainly.
a sign of what's happening. That is, the world in a lot of ways is rebelling against not just the Israeli atrocities, but the Trump absurdities. And hopefully, somehow that can keep terrible forces like this GSF from being deployed. It's unfortunate, and I can say you were asking, do the words matter? Yes, they do. After my speech to the Security Council, I had so many ambassadors come up to me and say, we had no idea. We never heard anything like this. This is totally news to us. And I went to visit many of them afterwards to explain the situation. So unfortunately, the grip of the US mainstream media and the European mainstream media on the world, that is on its former colonies and current neo-colonies, is still very strong. And it's only gradually that a counter narrative through some of the big agencies like RT or the Chinese agencies or Venezuelan, Telesur, and so forth, have been able to claw back, and through independent operations like Haiti Liberté, you know, which is not answerable to these forces. So, yeah, the words have impact, and hopefully people will see through Laurent Saint-Cyr's totally hypocritical and false narrative that this force is needed to protect against lawlessness and criminality.
Well, I want to turn for a second to back a little bit to Henry Wooster, because you did talk a lot about his biography and a little bit more about him with Ralph Lauren of Tembo Verite. But I want to also get that in an English presentation as well for contextualizing who this figure is. So the cover article from last week's paper called him the governor of Haiti, which is in line with what you're saying, you know, the Cuban analysis of the OAS, for example, as these kind of appointed archdukes or the viceroys of the colonies.
Yeah.
But can you talk a little bit more about him? I mean, I thought his presentation, when watching it and actually hearing his voice and seeing him, he seemed remarkably, inarticulate and a little bit incoherent, kind of all over the place in his analysis. Because it struck me as he, you know, for one thing, and I mean, this is part of the biography, right? It's pretty obvious he's not, you know, I mean, why is he the appointed ambassador to Haiti, for example? What expertise does he have? And so he came there, I think, with a lot of, in that presentation, a lot of Ivy League posturing, but, you know, using terms like the admixture of Vivant Somme is, you know, all these criminal groups, and we need forced generation and all the, you know, typical kind of rhetorical pleasantries
And euphemisms.
and euphemisms more so. Yeah, exactly, right. Because what do you really mean by forced generation? That one really struck me. But yeah, can you talk a bit, about, we've talked about a little bit, but his own background and how it is that he came to be the governor?
Well, his father had been in the army, and if
Mhm.
you know anybody who's been in the military, they like acronyms and to use uh, those terms like euphemisms like forced generation, strategic hamlet, a little concentration camp village,
Yeah.
or there's all sorts of ways we can talk about things to neuter the bad feelings that the words would generate. So he is, I think, a guy who's senior enough and has been in enough high positions. He was a former ambassador to Jordan. As I said, his father was a trainer of the Shah of Iran's army for the U.S. military, U.S. Army. So that's why he has Iranian knowledge. And he also was briefly in the Maghreb, meaning he had to deal with the Sahel states. So to me, they said this guy would be a good fit because he's had to be kind of pushing back and seeing how to fight against Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, who now form the AES, the Alliance des États de Sahel, who in some ways are similar to Haiti because what's happening in Haiti is similar to the Sahel. And as people may know, I've said it before, maybe on this podcast as well. Jimmy Cherizier used to have the picture of Ibrahim Traore on his WhatsApp profile. So, this is the kind of leader, and Jimmy Cherizier, as people know, is a former soldier, a policeman, of which we could call a form of soldier. And interestingly, in his talk, Worcester was saying the same thing. He said, we're talking about troops. He said, I know policemen, we'll take policemen, but basically we're talking about troops. So they're getting rid of that euphemism. They realize they need an army, and they're not going to try to hide it around police force. They did this with MINUSTAH, went from 2004 to 2017. And for 2 years, from 2018 and 19, they had another force, kind of a wind down force called the MINUJUST. And they were saying, yeah, this is just police. It's no more armies. It's just police. So, the distinction between the type of uniform, if you're wearing a blue or a green uniform, whether, you still have a gun, you're still basically wearing a helmet and using all the military apparatus. So, all of that to say that Worcester himself, I think, is in a tough spot. They can't speak clearly about what they're trying to do with this office that they call the UN Support of Haiti Office, UNSOH. UNSOH. And this is the key. This is the office that will basically be the tap into the port through which they will suck out UN peacekeeping operation funds, because their whole thing is they will use UNSOH to get logistics to their GSF. So he can't be too, I could say, clear about this maneuver that they're doing with the UN bureaucracy, because that will sort of give the game away. They have to keep all the details kind of fuzzy, sort of like when you're signing the bottom line on the used car dealer's thing and he doesn't want you to look too closely. So this is a little bit why I think he was so incoherent and so sort of vague in a lot of his statements, and just using
generalities
and almost diversionary language.
and even almost a little bit sort of not specific about what the demands are. Like there, an example that comes to mind is this, and again, I mean, people should watch it for themselves. Perhaps we can link it or link to it or whatever. He says, "Oh, if a country wants to offer 750, we'll say, why not make it 1,000?
Why not make it 1,000?"
Which is more of a salesman kind of analysis than a real a legitimate kind of political, we would say a real political concern, because if you actually were following sincerely, you would know how much you need, you would know how long it's going to last for. You wouldn't go to people and say, hey, we're gonna send maybe 750 or maybe 1,000 soldiers, depending on the maximum we can get and the maximum amount of time. So it really is which is it, what kind of force is being prepared, how long do they plan to be there? None of these details are given. As the example you gave earlier of who's going to lead it, it's going to be some ad hoc body that we can make a new acronym for. So I thought this, even down to, I think we were talking a little bit about this foreign press service. Is it foreign press service or the foreign press center or whatever?
Foreign press center, maybe that's
this kind of propaganda arm, kind of the fact that even that they have these, kind of the way almost analogous in a totally contrary way to what we're doing of having a YouTube presentation where you can watch this on YouTube, makes you think, what kind of ideology or what form of propaganda is this that they're putting these videos out on YouTube of them having a dressed up presentation where they basically say nothing of detail. Like they literally give just ranges of the things that they need or want for their occupation. So
we just need this resolution to pass. That's all we need. We need this
basically
to pass because we need stability in Haiti. Why? Because we need it.
Right, which is catch-22 or 1984, whatever example you want to have of the on the fly logic, which to again contrast that with the example I gave earlier with the Russian ambassador Nebenya, where he just says and as you said in your UN presentation, there's a very specific part of Haiti's constitution that says there shall be no foreign troops on Haitian soil.
Well, it's 241. -2, I think. Yeah.
So I think I just find it interesting that there can be that it can be acceptable already with the rhetorical devices of chaos, lawlessness, and that the proposed solution to that is just kind of like, how many times did Laurent Sincere use the word peace just in the you were scrolling through it at high speed, and it's peace. It's kind of like totally desensitizing us to the actual meaning of the word. So
well, and to me, in the end, it will be great when the nations of the world can link the crimes of Israel and Gaza directly to the U.S. and see that at this point we should not only give Israel no quarter, we should give the U.S. no quarter. And if you see the U.S. pushing for an intervention in Haiti, you better think twice before you buy that package.
Well, many people, I think, are aware of that, but what's frustrating is that while they don't condone foreign intervention, they don't necessarily understand on the other hand, which is that the what's the term I'm looking for? Uh, the equivalent part of that, which is that no foreign intervention shall take place. Coalite, is that the word I'm thinking of? Or
the corollary.
The corollary,
Okay.
the corollary, exactly. The corollary to that, in my mind, is no foreign intervention can solve these problems. Therefore, only endogenous solutions can solve these problems. That is kind of so I think it's strange that people don't fully realize, yes, the US is behind this. Yes, this is part of the ongoing foreign intervention and imperialism, but you can't fight imperialism if you finally recognize what it is without some revolution in the country, which is what's happening. And many people are a bit, we condemn both, kind of like with, they say with Russia, like neither Moscow nor Washington, but at a certain point, with respect to Haiti, there is a endogenous answer to a lot of these problems that has been developing over time.
Endogenous and indigenous. No, the essence of the language of the UN Charter is self-determination. That has meaning. It's not just a slogan. It means nations decide their own path. The peoples decide it. That means let the Haitians sort it out. If the poor are rising up and are armed and are fighting against their bourgeoisie and against foreign domination, they have a right to do that. And this is not something that threatens international peace and security. It may threaten U.S. investments and U.S. geostrategic interests because Haiti sits between Cuba on the one hand and shares the island of Hispaniola with the Dominican Republic. So Haiti sits in a very critical juncture, and this is why Worcester says it is the most urgent crisis we have in the Western Hemisphere. So to me, there are principles, and principles are no foreign intervention, and the U.S. is just trampling over that. They're doing what they call the bum's rush, hurry, so they can, give you an urgency. No, Haiti has been in a bad shape for decades, and this question of forcing it through the Security Council, trying to ram it through with a hastily written, poorly argued proposed resolution, which again, people can go read it word for word on the Haiti Liberté website. I think we're the only one that's reproduced it. And you will see just how we did the analysis of it, our own. It was minimal. We could have gone much more in depth. But if you read through that document, you will see just how sneaky and duplicitous it is, because essentially they are talking about siphoning off UN peacekeeping funds, what they call the trust funds, and Worcester talked about it, but in a very oblique and opaque way. He didn't explain that, listen, we're trying to tap into those funds because we're sick and tired of paying for it. And he said, we paid over $1 billion so far. $1 billion to support this force, which has done nothing and has been a total failure. And now they're just saying, okay. And, it's interesting, Chiang Kai-shek, when he was going after the communists who were the Mao Zedong and the Soviets, the Chinese Soviets that were set up in the northwest of China, they had many different invasions, but there were basically three big ones. The first one had 100,000 troops that they sent. The second one had 200,000, and the last one had 500,000, and each one was repelled and didn't work. So just like David Petraeus's stupid surge, throw more troops at it. Troops aren't going to solve this problem. Just putting the numbers, you can come with more lethal bombs. You can start to wipe out neighborhoods. Do like the Israelis are doing, or Israelis in the U.S. are doing in Gaza, but you're just going to create more resistance. You're going to create more people who hate you and are going to fight you. So, again, like Fidel said in Cuba, you can come, but you're not going to leave. Yeah.
Well, I do just because of the time we have, and I think there's so much more to discuss about this, but perhaps we can next weekend we can give the updates from what happened throughout the course of this next week. More so on this. Before we conclude, I did want to look through some of the other articles, and I liked, perhaps this is, I can just say it more on a positive note. There was the article this week about the young model who is in the Haitian community, and I mean, perhaps we could interview the author of the article to talk a little bit more about that. But I thought that was maybe a good kind of a closing note, was to focus on something
a little more upbeat.
A little bit more upbeat. We can just...
Well, people should understand that Haiti Liberté is a journal of the Haitian community. And so occasionally we have people ask us, or I should say regularly, we have about 3 other articles we have to do, which are called In the Community. And one was the grandmother of this young 13-year-old model, Naya, I believe is her name.
Yep, Naya Jean-Pierre.
Naya Jean-Pierre, who is out, doing the modeling thing. And we had one of our correspondents, Moise Lina Jean-Louis, who is herself something of a model. She was Miss Haiti for 2021, I believe, in one of the Miss Haiti contests. So she wrote a very nice article about Nia, giving a kind of a profile.
Yeah.
So not everything in Haiti Liberté, yes, is downer. And,
none of it is a downer, only because it is all about the revolution.
Well, what I mean, in the sense that it is gets your blood pressure up. Some of it is, and we hope to have a profile shortly of another establishment in the Haitian community. Hopefully I'll get to that this weekend. I think I have to do it, or maybe I'll impress Joseph Mullen into service if possible.
Yeah, I think I guess that is an important point to close on, because you can feel a little bit cynical while observing the UN, and there's so much power politicking, and it's very Machiavellian. A lot of it relies on behind closed doors, and even when you were discussing the trading of veto, the trading off of diplomatic actions for one another, turning it almost into a cost benefit analysis, and a kind of in the world run under the U.S. imperialist schema, countries have to really calculate and count their currency, their diplomatic currency, which is very much a product of almost like Otto von Bismarck or some kind of old system of politics.
Right. It just shows the contentious nature of our planet, not the cooperative nature.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And on the other hand, then, at least from where we are, where we're talking about Haiti, but at least we are part of Little Haiti in Brooklyn, and it's kind of all taking place here we're under the shadow, literally, of the UN building and all this,
Yeah.
deciding the fate of the world. But you still see people, living their lives and trying to, run businesses and support themselves and have some forms of sovereignty at least in their daily lives. So I thought that article was a really good example of that. And again, not to say that it is in any way disconnected from all of these other events. It's all very much hand in hand. But yeah, I think anything else you would like to discuss?
No, just again, anybody who does see this, and we know it's new, we have to build our audience, but we'll try to come out every Sunday. I thought the interview that you did with Kervins Louisette last week was excellent. He's an upcoming, also in his 20s, young intellectual, and we appreciate your internationalism. Joseph Mullen, for coming and engaging in the Haitian struggle and helping us get this podcast going. We hope we've been talking with Berthany Dupont about getting a Creole version of this.
Yeah.
Of course, there are so many Creole podcasts, so we're trying to fill a little niche here of English language for those. But again, you may be any nationality, any race, any gender. We welcome your support and help in our struggle to support Haitian self-determination. And right now is one of the biggest tests it's had in a long time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Then we'll be back next Sunday. And thank you for tuning in. And the revolution
revolution
continues. The struggle
continues.
continues. Yeah.
The struggle continues, as our WBAI show used to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.